It's crazy how the things that we lived as a kid, I'm talking to us guys right now, specifically the things that we lived with our father. It's crazy how much of that still affects us into adulthood. You know, there's a lot that I'm finding out that the things that I do, the things that I feel, certain insecurities, certain whatever it is, like I tend to not want to look internally. I know there's something wrong and I'm responding a certain way to a situation in a negative way, usually anger. And I, I tend to not want to, like, I don't care, you know? Something will happen, I'll be angry, I'll get silent, I'll keep to myself, and I'll distract myself with whatever it is. That's how, I believe that's how pornography got a real hold of me early on in my life, like when I was young. And it's crazy because it only took a little bit of time between my parents' divorce and me not seeing my dad again. There was only a small time between that and when porn got introduced to my life. And that put together with like also music, because music was just like my hobby like since forever. But those two things were like my biggest distractions. Also, like, TV and, stuff like that. But as far as things that were like deeply rooted, and I'm starting to realize why. Or not necessarily why, but I'm starting to realize that connection with the things that I didn't want to look at inside of me. I wouldn't look at it. I would ignore it, and I would fill my mind with these other things. I would use up my time, my mental time, because I would spend time thinking or distracted or numbing or whatever. And, coming into adulthood, now being a father, a husband and a father, I realize there are things when I no longer run to numbing my mind. It gave me that time to now address the things that were deeply rooted since my childhood. You know, there are things that we don't realize. And I say this now because these are things that I think about as a father now, to not repeat the cycle. Because my kids, they're little. My daughter is 9, my son is 5, my other son is 1, and then we have a fourth baby on the way. And I think about the impact that my dad had, not only when I was with him, but even his absence, the impact that it had on my life. And it makes me think about my own children and what role I play for them, you know? How I need to be present. Because even though, yeah, I'll be home, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm present with them. And the things that I say, the things that I do, what am I communicating to them internally? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like for me personally, there was never a time where, well, I guess there was, but it was like later on my own, but it was difficult to find that place of becoming a man. I didn't have that. I didn't have my dad. And that's what I think about for my sons, right? Because I'm about to have 3 sons and 1 daughter, of course. But I think about that. I think about, I didn't have like a rite of passage time frame in my life. I had to figure that out on my own later on in my 20s, and that was very detrimental to me because I feel like I was a child mentally, even later on, right? Like, I just felt I would notice things that I would see myself as not equal, right? Or even things like not worthy enough, feeling like I'm not worthy enough to go do this or to go do that, or who am I? But not in a humble way, but in a negative way, because being humble is not thinking, I've heard this, being humble is not thinking too highly of yourself or too low of yourself, right? It's like not looking at yourself, just being honest. Pride is always the eyes on you, your own eyes on yourself. And that's one thing that I've struggled with a lot in my life. My eyes always on me, but a lot of times in a negative way, in a way where I'm not worthy enough for this, or there's somebody better for that, or that person is really qualified, I'm not, let them do it, and really putting myself in this like less than everybody else category. And I don't want that for my children. Not only like the way that they view themselves, but even the way that they view me. I want them to know that I'm there for them, and I'm going to do everything in my power. And that's what I do. Like that's what I'm saying. Like that's what this is bringing me towards. Not just now, but I'm saying like times that I've gone through these seasons, through these thoughts, because there's a reason why the enemy wants us completely distracted and numbing our minds, because we need time to sit here and think about these things and process the things that we have internally and why we do what we do. What do we want? What is our goal? What is our, you know what I mean? And you know for a while, a lot of us men, if not all of us, right, like a big part of what we do is we're the providers of the family, of the home. And a lot of times I would find myself like really needing something, like feeling like I didn't have enough, you know? And the Lord has been helping me in that area with recognizing that he's revealing to me that a lot of my issues are self-imposed. A lot of times I will be my own stumbling block and I won't get out of my own way. And it becomes a thing of like, well, what are you going to do? Because it's difficult. It's easy to want something, but then when you see what it takes, are you going to do it or are you not? And that's what the Lord has been revealing to me, that a lot of times, more often than not in my life, I've said no. So the hard part is recognizing when you are in the place that you've put yourself in. Not to say that I'm in any bad place right now, thank God. But this is what he's shown me. Anything that I'm unsatisfied with in myself, things that I would like to do better, things that I wish I could do better, whatever it is, a lot of times it's my own fault, if not always. And that's the difficult thing that we don't want to look at. I don't want to look at that. I don't want to look at myself and be like, yeah, I'm failing in this area because I'm just too lazy, or because I'm not disciplined enough, or because I'm afraid, or whatever the case is. It's a lot more difficult to look at that reality and that truth, and it's easier to just fall back into distractions and numbing your mind. It doesn't even need to be sinful things, right? Like, as earlier I mentioned pornography, but even playing video games all day, or just watching a bunch of TV, being on YouTube all day, whatever it is, like just numbing your mind, just bringing your mind, keeping it moving without actually working on anything that you need, right? That's what the devil wants, right? He doesn't necessarily always want you in sin, while he does, but he also just wants you busy and distracted with something that's pulling you away from what God has in your life, from what God has for your life. And that's what I've been realizing, that it takes hard work, not even always physical work, but mental work, to stop distracting myself, stop pulling my mind to something that's just fun and entertaining and whatever, and keep my mind focused on the difficult situation so I can figure it out, of course, with the Lord, right? Seeking his counsel, right? That's something that I've also been struggling with, is recognizing that I need God's help. A lot of times when I'm in a situation, I'm feeling like I need to figure it out. Like I need to find the solution. I need to work harder. I need to be more disciplined. I need to do this. And in reality, what I need to do is seek the Lord's wisdom. Spend time with him. Seek his counsel. Do the things that are easy, because it doesn't take a lot to sit here and spend time with God. It's not hard to sit here and read his word and get in his presence. right? Seek him. What is your plan for my life? That's not hard physically to do, but it's hard on the pride. It's hard because I feel like I need to find the solution. That's the difficulty of it. And that's what the Lord has been reminding me and teaching me and making me recognize you're in your pride because you're not allowing me to help you. You're full of pride because you think you got to figure it out and you're ignoring time with me, and that's why you can't figure it out. If you would just humble yourself and recognize you cannot do this, I will show you the way. And it will be a lot easier than if you were to just do it on your own, the way you keep trying over and over and over, and nothing's happening. Nothing's coming from it. And even when people do succeed in that way, it's empty because the Lord's will is not in it, right? So God has really been training me and reminding me and pulling me in this place of letting go of my pride, stopping thinking that I'm going to figure it out all out by myself and that I need his help, that I need to seek after him, right? What did he even tell us, right? Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom of heaven and seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all of these things will be added unto you. He's talking about this that I'm talking about right now. Financial things, taking care of your family, taking care, what are you going to eat? What are you going to wear? Where are you going to live? Where's your income coming from? All of these things that God provides. Yet here we think I have to make it happen. That's not to say we don't work. Work is God given to man, right? From even before the fall, right? God told Adam to work the garden. So that's a good thing. I'm not saying to not work, but what I'm saying is don't work in vain, right? Jesus said, my yoke is light and my yoke is easy and my burden is light, right? The work that he has for us is not back-breaking work for a little bit of return. Our work is so much more fulfilling when we are submitted to him and his will and we seek him and he is our leader. And I'm not saying this from a place of I know everything. I'm saying this is what God is telling me right now. That's why I'm sharing it, because this is what I had to hear today. So hopefully this encourages you guys and leads you in the right direction, because I definitely needed to hear that today. So catch you guys on the next one.